Hello and welcome. I'm Geeta Mohan and you're watching World Today. We begin with news from White House. Recent public appearance by US President Donald Trump has reignited concerns over his health. Pictures showing visible swelling on his ankles and visible bruises on his wrists and hands are going viral and has prompted the White House to release a medical update over the same. Donald Trump has been diagnosed with chronic venous insufficiency, a condition that's not life-threatening but is still concerning. So what is CVI, who does it affect, and is it serious? Sneha Mordani with this report.
Chronic venous insufficiency. This is what American President Donald Trump has been diagnosed with. A condition not life-threatening but worrying nevertheless.
In recent weeks, President Trump noted mild swelling in his lower legs. In keeping with routine medical care and out of an abundance of caution, this concern was thoroughly evaluated by the White House medical unit. The president underwent a comprehensive examination, including diagnostic vascular studies. Bilateral lower extremity venous Doppler ultrasounds were performed and revealed chronic venous insufficiency, a benign and common condition.
Photos of the US president at the FIFA World Cup had sparked fresh concerns online. Images showed Trump with swollen ankles and visible bruises on his hand, with observers claiming that he tried to conceal them with makeup. So what is chronic venous insufficiency? Well, this happens when your leg veins become damaged and can't work as they should. Normally, valves in your leg veins keep blood flowing back up to your heart. But CVI damages those valves, causing blood to pool in your legs. This increases pressure in your leg veins and causes symptoms like swelling and even ulcers. Venous disease in general is common. Varicose veins affect about 1 in 3 adults. Each year, 1 in 50 adults with varicose veins go on to develop chronic venous insufficiency. Chronic venous insufficiency affects people over the age of 50. The risk goes up the older you get. CVI affects about 1 in 20 adults. Well, these are the signs and symptoms of chronic venous insufficiency. Achy or tired legs, burning, tingling or pins and needles, cramping in your legs at night, discolored skin, edema or swelling in your lower legs and ankles, flaking or itching skin on your legs or feet, full or heavy feeling in your legs, leathery looking skin, ulcers around your ankles, and also varicose veins. The big question, can it affect heart health?
Situation about the heart attack, which is basically when the blood vessels to your coronaries, the heart vessels and all get blocked. You get pain in the chest and then you present with an acute kind of a condition. And many a times the patients, if they don't reach the hospital, they can die because of that reason. So similar kind of problem that we face in the legs is that if the blood supply to the legs goes off suddenly because of some blockages or some clots going down to the legs and all, the patient can get severe pain. And probably if untreated and all within a few hours and all that sort of thing, the legs can become gangrenous.
Who then is vulnerable?
That's a very, very strong connection out here because we consider the vascular territories. There are 3 basic vascular territories which are there. One, of course, is the heart, which is the fountainhead. And then you have the blood flow to the brain, which is the carotid arteries, and then to the lower limbs, which basically supplies blood to the liver, the intestines, kidneys, and the rest of the lower limbs and all basically, which provide circulation to these parts. And they're all interconnected.
CVI is also something that can be managed if you make good lifestyle changes. For example, walking is a great exercise. Your calf muscles and your ankles must be exercised as well. If you're sitting or standing for a long time, stop doing it. Walk around more. That's an excellent exercise to prevent CVI from developing and also helping yourself. Good lifestyle changes, prevention of alcohol use, not smoking. These are things that must be done. If you've ended up developing CVI, remember it can be managed. Compression therapy is what most doctors, most experts recommend. It is not a life-threatening disease, but it can be painful and it can affect your quality of life. In New Delhi, Sneha Mordani for India Today TV.
In a big win for New Delhi, the U.S. State Department designated the Resistance Front, that's a terrorist organization, as foreign terrorist organization and specially designated global terrorist. TRF is an offshoot of Pakistan-based terror group Lashkar-e-Taiba, which had claimed responsibility for the heinous Pahalgam terror attack. This move is considered by New Delhi a strong affirmation of India-US counter-terrorism cooperation. An organization designated as an FTO means that financing, aiding, advising, and helping such organizations is a crime under US law. Now, this development is important. India has been reiterating Pakistan's role in promoting terrorism and urging the international community to recognize Pakistan's role in harboring terrorists and terror outfits, be it the Parliament attack, 26/11 attacks, Uri, and most recently, Pahalgam terror attack. Following India's precision strikes on terror hubs in Pakistan as part of Operation Sindoor, India launched a major diplomatic global outreach against Pakistan-sponsored terrorism. The Indian government had sent 7 all-party delegations of political leaders who put forth India's fight for years against terrorism and how Operation Sindoor was meant only to wipe out terror hubs. Now, a strong diplomatic message from India, but the fact is that while this is an important development, US President was also seen hosting Pakistan Army Chief Asim Munir for a White House lunch, which raises doubts about US intention. It's a matter of concern whether US actually walks the talk, or is it a maneuver to keep India and Pakistan on the edge all the time. Just 2 months ago, Pakistan's Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar had claimed success in altering the UN Security Council press statement on Pahalgam terror attack by removing any mention of TRF. Now, to discuss all this and more, I'm also being joined by my colleague Pranay Upadhyay. Pranay, a very important development. On the one hand, US State Department designating the TRF, but on the other, we'll still have to question whether this means much more than what we're seeing right now, given that US kept quiet at the United Nations Security Council when the very same TRF's name was being removed.
You're absolutely right, Geeta. But let me put across this point as well, that it was the United States which actually helped bringing the resolution to condemn Pahalgam terror attack. And in fact, the United States was in favor of including TRF's name. There are 2 aspects of it. One, the very designation of TRF, which is an offshoot of the Lashkar-e-Taiba, which is a banned outfit by the US as well as the United Nations Security Council. This is a very fact. This is an acknowledgement that the United States government also acknowledges, they also accept that TRF poses a threat to US interests, poses the security threat to US national and the US economic interests as well. So this is certainly a welcome move, certainly a diplomatic victory, and this is also a vindication of India's standpoint as far as the terrorism emanating from Pakistan soil is concerned. But on the other side, there has been a history of designations, but there is also a history of non-delivery as far as the Pakistan is concerned, and as far as the US-Pakistan relation is concerned. Since Pressler Act of 1990s onward, we have seen that there is a substantial decrease in US military aid to Pakistan. But there has been substantial aid, there has been substantial overlooking of the fact, because the same President Donald Trump, when he was in Oval Office in 2018 during his previous tenure, Geeta, you would recall that on 1st of January 2018, his first morning tweet was about the betrayal by Pakistan. There he complained that Pakistan cheated on America and they got billions of dollars and did nothing in war on terror. So this was his frustration. Right. And thereafter, he reduced the Pakistan's military aid. But the bigger question remains, be it LET, be it Falai Insaniyat Organization, be it Jamaat-ud-Dawa, these are the same organization, the same individuals. So therefore, you have also been covering this, like post 26/11, we have seen that, how these organizations have been banned. But what is the logical conclusion to it? That is the thing which we look at. This is what, that's why India has, welcomed this move. But we certainly expect more from the US and also the global community to pressurize Pakistan and take it to the logical conclusion.
That's right. We'll have to wait and see how the United States of America walks the talk on this one. Pranay Upadhyay, thank you so much for joining us. Now, another victory for India after the resistance force was designated as a foreign terrorist organization by the US State Department. Alberta province in Canada has urged Ottawa to designate Lawrence Bishnoi gang as a terror entity. Earlier, I spoke to Alberta Deputy Premier Mike Ellis for the entire interview. You can log on to India Today Global on YouTube, but listen into what he had to say.
It's a landmark win for India after the US State Department branded the resistance force as a foreign terrorist organization. Alberta becomes Canada's second province after British Columbia to urge Ottawa to list the Lawrence Bishnoi gang as terrorist. The Bishnoi network stands accused of orchestrating targeted killings on Canadian soil. In a blistering joint statement, Alberta Premier Daniel Smith and Public Safety Minister Mike Ellis labelled the gang a transnational criminal network responsible for violence, extortion, drug trafficking and targeted murders. They warned that formal terrorist designation is vital to keep Canadians safe. The Bishnoi outfit has been linked to extortion rings across British Columbia, Alberta and Ontario. India is pressing Canada to go after key figures, most notably Satinderjeet Singh, alias Goldie Brar, wanted for the May 2022 murder of Punjabi singer Sidhu Moosewala. Meanwhile, New Delhi will be watching Ottawa's next move on Khalistani militants and on the unresolved row over Canada's accusations that India was behind the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Ties between the two governments have never been frostier. With Mahashweta Lala, Bureau Report, India Today.
Premier Eby in British Columbia had certainly initially made the request to the federal government to declare the Bishnoi gang a terrorist organization. As Premier Smith and myself contacted local law enforcement here in Alberta to determine the extent of the gang's activity in Alberta. We learned not only through the law enforcement agencies, but also through community members that there was extensive violence and extortion and threats of violence, arson, as an example, all targeted towards the South Asian community. And certainly based upon what we heard from law enforcement and community members, we stand with Premier Eby to ask the Canadian government to declare the Bishnoi gang a terrorist organization.
It's Trump versus Rupert Murdoch now. The US president is vowing to sue the owner of Wall Street Journal, Rupert Murdoch, over a story wherein a 2003 birthday letter of Jeffrey Epstein bears Trump's name and sexually explicit content. President Trump accused the Wall Street Journal of publishing a fake letter. He emphasized that these were not his words. In his letter, he also said he had asked Rupert Murdoch not to go ahead with the story. Donald Trump says he has asked the Justice Department to release court documents relating to sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi said the department was ready to move the court to unseal the grand jury transcripts, but the release of documents would take some time. It is unclear if they refer to first set of cases from the early 2000s or the federal charges in 2019. Vice President J.D. Vance came out strongly in support of the president and said the Wall Street Journal should be ashamed of publishing such an article. Earlier, a joint memo by the Department of Justice and FBI said there was no client list of Epstein and he had died by suicide. Mourners gathered at the Greek Orthodox St. Porphyrius Church in Gaza City to bid farewell to two Palestinian Christians who medics said were killed in an Israeli strike on the Holy Family Church. An Israeli strike on Gaza's sole Catholic church killed 3 people and injured several others. The Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF, said they were aware of reports regarding damage caused to the Holy Family Church in Gaza City and casualties at the scene. Circumstances of the incident are under review. Israel's foreign ministry said in a statement on X that the results of the investigation would be published. It also said the country did not target churches or religious sites and regretted harm to them or civilians. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni blamed Israel for the strike on the religious compound. Meanwhile, the White House said U.S. President Donald Trump called the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu regarding the attack on the church.
It was not a positive reaction. He called Prime Minister Netanyahu this morning to address the strikes on that church in Gaza, and I understand the Prime Minister agreed to put out a statement. It was a mistake by the Israelis to hit that Catholic church. That's what the Prime Minister relayed to the President, and you should look at the Prime Minister's statement that will be.
Anger grips the people of Eswatini, a country in southern Africa. Deportees from the U.S. have arrived in the country, and its government has confirmed that migrants described by a Department of Homeland Security spokesperson as depraved monsters had been sent to its prisons. Formerly called Swaziland and roughly the size of New Jersey, Eswatini is governed by a monarch. 5 deportees have been held here in isolation in its jails. Earlier, Trump administration had made mass deportations to El Salvador as well. The government has tried to strike deals with a number of African countries to accept deportees. Nigeria has said it was pressurized to take in deportees. The 5 deportees were nationals from Jamaica, Laos, Cuba, Yemen, and Vietnam. They were convicted of crimes which included child rape, murder, and robbery. But citizens of Eswatini have disapproved of this.
Why has Swaziland allowed to be what we can, if we can, inhuman call it dumping site of those people that the American government knew as unworthy to be in their own kind? We decry this thing that it happened, and we condemn that the government revisits its stance.
You have to also bear in mind that the U.S. is mounting considerable pressure on African countries to accept Venezuelans to be deported from the U.S., some straight out of prison. It will be difficult for a country like Nigeria to accept Venezuelan prisoners into Nigeria.
That's all in this edition of World Today. Thank you for watching. But before we go, we leave you with this. An amusing night out at a Coldplay concert has spiraled into a viral business scandal. A kiss cam moment turned awkward. And now 2 top executives from a well-known tech firm are under intense public scrutiny. CEO Andy Byron and Chief People Officer Kristen Cabot have become the center of a social media firestorm. Their concert appearance is raising questions about workplace ethics, personal boundaries, and how quickly private moments can spiral in the age of TikTok.